Hi everyone, it's Mr. Anderson, and welcome to Biology Essentials video number 1. Today we'll be talking about feedback systems, which are a part of the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a chemical messenger system consisting of hormones and glands, hormones and glands that control the body's homeostasis or balance. What are feedback systems? A feedback system is how a response is stimulated from an internal or external stimuli. An important part of the feedback system is the stimuli. This is what actually starts the feedback system and could be anything from a change in temperature to getting a deadly disease. Next, there is the receptor, which would usually be a part of the nervous system and essentially send action potentials or chemical messengers to the control center. Hold on a second. Receptor, receptor, and control center. Stimuli. So the control center could usually be the brain or a gland such as the hypothalamus gland. Usually it's the brain and it controls the whole thing because it's trying to keep the body in balance. And then after, the effector is the muscle or organ that can respond to the stimuli. This final step is really how the final response is obtained and returns the body to normal balance. So next we're going to talk about the normal range and set point of a graph. Normal range and set point of a graph are integral to describing a feedback system. The set point is considered homeostasis, or where the body wants to be, which is the middle line you see here on the graph. And the normal range is what happens during the feedback system. When a stimulus triggers a response in the body, its balance levels drive up or down away from the set point. So as you can see here in these pictures, the cell feels useless because he thinks he can't do anything. However, because he is a living thing, he can respond to different issues. So the little thing says that he can be a blog writer, which is pretty funny because all living things can respond to stimuli. This is also a picture of a feedback loop, which is positive because the sleep is disrupted, which increases like tiredness. And if a person is tired, they can't deal with stressors as well. And if a person can't deal with stress well, then it disrupts sleep even more, which just continues the cycle. You can ignore the bottom caption, which says negative feedback loop, because that's incorrect. And, there's multiple examples of negative feedback loops in the world.
Okay, now let's move on to positive feedback systems. A positive feedback system occurs less often than a negative feedback loop. Rather than maintaining homeostasis, the purpose of a positive feedback loop is to produce a result quickly. It moves away from a target set point and is used for amplification. If you look at the real world, you can see positive feedback loops in our environment. I'm sure you all know that our planet is facing the issue of global warming. Ice caps are rapidly melting in the Arctic as a result of increasing temperatures. The ice caps actually play a role in keeping the planet's temperature low by reflecting light away from the planet. However, with these ice caps melting, the ice caps turn into water. The water does not reflect the sunlight and instead its high specific heat, which you guys should know, and darker color absorbs even more sunlight. And this creates a cycle. Now, let's look at another example. Let's take a look at another example. A popular example of a positive feedback loop is giving birth. In labor, the pressure of the baby's head on the cervix sends a signal to the brain, which is the control center. A signal is then sent to the effector, which is the uterine, and provokes the response, which are contractions. The contractions push the baby's head further out, leading to even more signals being sent to the brain. This loop continues until the baby is finally birthed. Now, let's see if you can identify the different structures of a feedback loop in the system. What is the stimuli? That's right. You it is the baby's head on the cervix. Now, what is the receptor? You got it right. It's the cervix. Now, what is the control center? Yes, it is the brain or the posterior pituitary. Now, what is the effector? You got it. It's the uterus. This produces the response, which is the release of oxytocin. And the oxytocin further loops and then creates a cycle where the contractions continue and more oxytocin is produced. We can also look at positive feedback loop in terms of a graph. If this graph shows the level of estrogen in the body during a time of a pregnancy, the graph would look something like this. Assuming that this is the set point right here, you can see that the level of estrogen moves away from the set point and is amplified.
And you guys may be wondering, what is a negative feedback? Well, a negative feedback in biology regulates different variables to or back to a set point, kind of like stabilization. And our first example is going to be this, a thermostat. A thermostat is in most of your homes and it keeps the house temperature the same. So let's say in this example, the set temperature of the house is 68. If the outside temperature goes higher or increases to, let's say, around 80 degrees, then as a response, the thermostat will automatically decrease back to 68%. And this is kind of like a negative feedback because if it's a graph, in a graph, so this is the set point. This is kind of what you would like your body or your home or whatever you want to maintain. If it increases, your body will react and want to decrease it back to the set point. And if it decreases, your body will also, or your home or your thermostat will want to increase back at this set point. So let's look at a real life example in biology of insulin. So insulin regulates glucose levels in your blood, so blood sugar levels. And you don't want your blood sugar level to be too high or you will get really hyper / it's a strain on your pancreas and you don't want it to go too low or else you won't feel as active and other consequences may happen such as fainting. So you want insulin to regulate your blood sugar. And to do this, insulin, as we wrote in the other chart, insulin wants to maintain your blood sugar level at this set point. When your blood sugar level goes too high, insulin identifies it and then brings it back down to the set point. And similarly, when the blood sugar level gets too low, your body responds to it and brings it back up to the set point. And then it's a constant loop, feedback loop, trying to get you to keep at this set point. So the different parts of this feedback loop includes the stimulus, the receptor, control center, the effector, and the response. So in this example, the stimulus is low or high blood sugar. Either way, your body will detect it. And your receptor is the pancreas. So your pancreas senses the high or low blood sugar and it sends it to the control center. the brain. In most cases, the control center will be the brain, since the brain will recognize that it is a problem that they need to bring back whatever variable to the set point. And then the effector would also be the pancreas as well, because the pancreas also regulates insulin. So after the pancreas receives the message that it's high or low in blood sugar, the brain tells the pancreas to also increase or decrease the insulin. The response would be either increasing or decreasing insulin, because if the blood sugar level is too high, insulin increases to decrease the blood sugar. And if the blood sugar is too low, then insulin decreases so that the blood sugar can increase again. And this is the example of a feedback loop in biology.